Jane Rose, and I want to thank those of you who are joining me for all 52 weeks, all 52 explorations of doorways, ideas, thoughts that can potentially transform an aspect of your life, improve your well-being for yourself, for those you care about. And in week 21, let media touch you, honor it by letting it change who you are, your direction, your priorities. I want to explore a couple of the media that are touching me at this time and invite you to consider sharing a few of them. Over the last few days, I've been enjoying Joseph Campbell and the Power of Myth 1 through 6 on Audible with Bill Moyers. Again, having enjoyed the videos, I think it was in my teens or possibly in my 20s, Joseph Campbell and the Power of Myth. And one of the powerful things about mythology and returning to it from time to time is that as we go through changes in our own life, as we change, the meaning of a myth, of a story, changes also. And what I'm enjoying is the dance between the macrocosm and the microcosm with Joseph Campbell, the macrocosm of world religions and world truths, the microcosm, the individual meanings and implications they have in my own life at this time. I'm listening tonight to a recording and exploration of the goddess and the different movements in history that have pivoted our culture from a goddess-honoring society to a God-honoring society. The different strengths and weaknesses in different religions, the different ways that you can see the pros and cons by looking at different angles. So that's definitely one of the programs that might be rich for you at this time. Another book I've read recently is Ray Dalio's book on principles. And in particular, Ray outlines a decision-making platform that I find intriguing. And so you have players in the decision within a family, within an organization, within a country. You have players. And each of these players have relative areas of expertise. So one person might measure an 8 out of 10 in terms of their aesthetic expertise. That's their training, that's their education. They're aware of a wide range of textures and palettes and construction techniques. So they might measure an 8 on that particular skill set. They might measure a 9 in terms of making rational decisions. They might measure a 5 in the talent of being empathic with other people. They might register a 2 in terms of long-term vision. A long-term vision, one of Ray's examples is, if I'm just focusing on today, I might wish for a sunny day. And again tomorrow, a sunny day. And again the next day, a sunny day. In other words, the short-term perspective might always lead to a desire for a sunny day. But as you start to look forward, weeks, months, years into the future, the consequences of never-ending sunshine without rain, without storm, without wildfires, without earthquakes and tectonic movement might lead to desolation, drought that kills off all the things that we enjoy in those sunny days. He refers to this as second, third, and fourth level consequences as to first level consequences. I like sunny days. I want a sunny day. The sunny day perspective on whether to spend $100 on going out to dinner today or whether to invest it in a CD with the vision of going to university or sending a child to university is a third, fourth level principle down the road. And different people have different focuses. And so what this decision-making module does that he's used to create one of the largest and most successful hedge funds in hedge fund history is that by correlating these numbers with the specific strengths needed to make an effective decision. Is it a decision in the short in the short term, or is it a long-term decision? Is it a decision that involves any aesthetic talent, or is it a decision that is all based on mathematics, for example? And in this way, the algorithm of both democracy and the combination of a person's own perspective of their strengths, tempered by people who have known each other and their anticipation of each other's strengths, leads to a more objective number. And so this person, for a given decision, may have a weight on the decision of 2 out of 10, because that's their competency in the area primarily related to the decision in question. I.e., if it's a mathematical decision where mathematical competency is the primary skill necessary to make the decision, and this person has a mathematical competency of 2 out of 10, they may cast their vote, but it only counts for 2 out of 10. And someone with a mathematical competency of 10, as assessed by themselves and their peers over time, would have their vote counted at 10 out of 10 in that area. And so the primary process of making decisions is, first of all, to identify the competencies, the talents or strengths needed to make the decision, then determine who has the most competency in those areas. And then the majority of the people with the most competency, as they tussle with the pros and cons of different decisions, has more weight. And what gets done within an organization, within a country, within a family, is slanted in that direction. And this is a powerful module that, with the use of app technology, something I'm very interested in, suggests a way of understanding that holds true to Western values of equal representation, meaning everyone gets a vote. But if everyone is voting on the most aesthetic landscape design, it should be the people with the most design competency that have a disproportionately high number for that decision. When it comes to mathematical decisions, it's the people with the most mathematical competency. When it comes to pioneering something new, people with the most grounded and clear imaginations may make the best decision. And so in this way, given in the many areas that decisions take place, people have different levels of influence, but everyone has a vote and is able to participate using artificial intelligence as more of a partnering, not a model of artificial intelligence in which it is the machine competing with humans, but technology enhancing, meaning it's too much work in an emotional debate for people to self-regulate and say, oh yeah, sorry, we're in an area where I have very little expertise, and so even though I feel very, very passionate about this, you shouldn't be paying attention to my passion, as opposed to the empathic thing where everyone's upset with Bill because, you know, he's so furious about this. So let's just do it Bill's way, because nobody wants to confront all of that emotion. And in this way, this is basically a roadmap that Ray is sharing that he's used to transform his company and transcend the greed and fear that is every investor's bane. Warren Buffett has gone about this a different way. His level of trauma in childhood, if you read the book Alice, I think it's Alice, anyway, Warren Buffett and the Business of Life. It's a beautiful biography. And one of the things you see there is a high level of childhood trauma leading to a coping mechanism for extraordinary pain by dissociating from emotions to such a degree that Buffett is able to walk over a screaming, injured child who's just fallen down the stairs without even noticing, to keep his systematic routine. In other words, Buffett has created his own enhanced artificial intelligence, an intelligence that is less affected than most people's by emotion, by empathy, and more affected by routine and logic, making Buffett one of the most successful investors of all time and one of the less effective fathers for a young infant who needs empathy and the love of a father. You see the pros and cons. Buffett would get a 10 for investment strategy, but a 1 or a 2 for doing the right thing for a child who's just experienced a traumatic event. For example, in just very loose terms. And this decision-making strategy, I think, is an exciting arena. I mean, an app that can do this is about $1,000 away. And I'm excited. The app that I'm working on, I mentioned it, I say it has a 2 to 10% chance of dramatically affecting a lot of people's lives. But because it can affect so many lives positively, it's worth doing it and failing. Meaning if 100 people design an app designed intending to positively affect 1 million people's lives, and 98% of those people fail, and 2 of them create such an app, the world is a dramatically better place. Meaning it's a good idea, going back to a recent blog in talking about values and mentors, to lean towards Elon Musk, the purpose-driven business with a high probability of failure, not because it's likely to succeed, but because it's important. And if it does succeed, thanks to someone's talent such as Elon, the world is a better place. The world is closer to being multiplanetary because of Elon. The world is closer to having clean energy because of Elon. And so I would also reference Ashley Vance's biography of Elon Musk. So we've got Ray Dalio, his work with principles. We've got Elon Musk. We've got Joseph Campbell. And the other, the other media that's been influencing me a lot is Terence McKenna. The best way is just to look him up on YouTube and listen to 2 to 7 hours. Find one of the nice, long, juicy recordings. And in one of the recent blogs, again, these are all building on one another, I talked about sorting through truth and perspective. And one of the things you want to look for is convergence. So, in case you haven't noticed, Campbell's over here approaching things from this angle. Musk is over here approaching things from this angle. Terence is over here. Ray Dalio here. Warren Buffett, Business of Life over here. Their worlds do not overlap a lot. This world is over here. This world is, over here. This world is here. This world is here. And yet there's some small areas with that little bit of imagination that overlap and touch, where no matter which angle you look from, whether it's this mentor, that mentor, this mentor, that mentor, in the future, in the past, cutting edge, ancient myth, there's some areas that overlap all of them. And these are interesting areas because if there is overlap from such very different people, it can suggest that it is more significant, it is a bigger object than something that is only relevant from a given perspective at a certain period of time. The bigger the object of focus, the more it will overlap, the more, a wide range of perspectives. One of those is well-being. That's an area that's interesting to me. And so what I try and look for in all of this, and I guess another little odd angle would be Soren Kierkegaard. Not a very deep dive because I'm limited to what's on Audible, and there's not much of Soren's work on Audible. But I'd heard an interesting comment from another teacher quoting Soren as saying that jealousy is unhappy admiration, that the people we are jealous of are the people we unhappily admire, i.e. the people we admire but cannot find the part in ourself which we aspire to and admire to in another. This making it an unhappy admiration as opposed to the unreserved admiration of joy and wonder, which often correlates to seeing some part in ourselves beautifully expressed with a much higher degree of excellence and distinction and refinement in someone we admire, without envy, without jealousy. And so these are a couple of different media explorations you might consider. And I'd send you to Audible because it's so nice to hear a beautiful voice reading something. It can be done while walking, soaking, exercising, cooking, eating. it's a much more rich and conscious companionship than, you know, whatever's on TV at the time, peppered with commercials. So that's my invitation for week 21. And the way that I engage with these things, again, using the 80-20 principle, ignore 80% of what I'm saying. I'm giving enough diversity that if you use the principle of human depth perception, we see that the whole purpose for having two eyes instead of one is that both eyes see the same object from a slightly different angle. And it is in the synthesis of those two perceptions from slightly different angles that we create the illusion and or the reality and or the dimension of depth, that our brain is able to tell how far away something is, the depth perception, precisely because when you look at things from two different perspectives simultaneously, not in an either-or paradigm. An either-or paradigm says it's either this eye or this eye. Which is it? If this is true, I don't want to hear anything about this eye. If this is true, I don't want to hear anything about the other eye. It's an either-or paradigm. If we realize that the human eyes are just 6 inches apart, but another thinker in another century, in another continent, that is miles apart. So if you can get some depth perception by looking in real time from two angles simultaneously that are only 6 inches apart, imagine the depth perception of the same object you get when you bring in another person with their two eyes. See, the person over here is getting a bit of the object that neither of these two eyes can see. And this is a very tiny object. If it's a big object, there are whole regions of the object which, given how much of reality is paradoxical, and just try and make sense of one Earth in a paradigm of either or, where you call up your friend, what's the temperature on Earth? Well, it's 90 degrees and sunny. You call another friend, what's the temperature on Earth? They're like, it's 40 degrees below zero and 3 feet of snow. Are you going to call one of them a liar, or are you going to awaken to the depth perception that the Earth is so big that whenever one part of it is blazing hot, there's another part of it that is ice cold? And so the real story, the real narrative begins not in an either-or paradigm. The real narrative, the beginning hints of a vast object, comes when you keep listening and keep taking readings from one person after another that are miles apart in time, space, emphasis, belief system, and filters, and come to realize that even if you understand 7 billion different eyes, the Earth is still bigger than that. There are still areas and places on the Earth that no human eye is reading at that moment in time, that is anomalous to whatever else is happening. See, that's what gets exciting, is realizing that most of the objects worth exploring that affect us, that can lead us into any sense of transcendence of who we are and believe we are as a result of our relationship. A lot of who we see ourselves as being is our relationship with what? With this culture at this moment in time, with this part of the planet at this moment in time. And yet there are other parts of who we are that we don't begin to understand, that we don't begin to connect with emotionally, mentally, imaginatively, until we relate to parts of us that are outside of what our five senses can let in at a given moment of time. So a little mind game, and beauty with Audible, you get all the books, you listen for 30 minutes, and one of them is going to grab you. And one of them you're going to keep listening to. And if you really don't have time for the depth, perception, complexity, or if you already have a leaning that's strong from this perspective, so your learning is not very rich looking from that angle, well, just pick an opposite perspective and find out how it can be true also. And you've gone a long way to expand your sense. Not to expand the bigness of reality. Reality is much bigger than your mind or my mind, whether we see it or not. But we take a step closer when we deal with people who are looking at a very different area of reality from a very different angle, with sincere efforts to report back what they see exactly as they see it. This creates the mystery, because reality is bigger than we can imagine, bigger than the human mind can conceive. But we can see a little bit more of that bigness by looking through other people's eyes. If you take this challenge and your world gets a little bigger and you learn something, one of the greatest fruits of that journey is honoring something new that you learn. How we honor something is by allowing it to change us. When I went to Copenhagen and gathered data, my view on the potential gifts of a socialist democracy changed. And my view of automatic reduction, automatic boycott of any increase in taxes changed. This is honoring something. It's not a very rich journey if we take a tour of everyone else's perspective and we confirm that we know best, that no one else can teach us anything, and so we are going to stay exactly the same. The most exciting thing in the world is to go out there and realize there's another part of reality where, for some reason that we haven't sorted out yet, the exact opposite of what we believe now seems to work better than what we believe looking from this angle. And how do those things meet in the middle? How do we get a world where this works better in China and this works better than in the United States and this works better in Denmark? What we're moving towards is an imagination, a thought process that is non-dualistic. Dualistic is it's this or it's this, as opposed to something that's synergistic, where it's this and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and you can go around the whole circle. That's an exciting journey. And the most valuable thing for us is to come out changed. To come out changed. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next week.